Kansas, guys, just lost in Waco. It was their third consecutive loss. Bill Self has lost 3 times in his Kansas career, 3 in a row, just 3 times in his career. 2005 at Texas Tech, Iowa State at Oklahoma. 2013, Oklahoma State at TCU at Oklahoma. 2021 at Oklahoma State at Baylor at Oklahoma. All 3 of them finished with at Oklahoma. This one finishes with in Waco. And they hung around tonight, but ultimately, again, their defense has not been great. And now, guys, how about this? Their next game, they go to Rupp and play a Kentucky team that kind of is finding its way. Bill Self could end up losing, if he loses that game, 4 straight for the first time in his career in Lawrence. How worried are you, RC, about this Kansas team right now that I had number 1 a week and a half ago?
I'm worried because it's not just that we're stopping at the Kentucky game, John. I mean, guys, it's Kentucky, it's Kansas State, it's Iowa State, and Texas. That's their next 4 games. No one in the country is going 4-0 on that stretch.
Right.
Like no one. So of those 4 teams, like tell me where they're gonna. You see an easy win. I mean, you gotta assume they're gonna try to get the win at home. I think the more disturbing thing is it's not as much as their defense that concerns me as much, Jeff, is offensively. I think they go through lulls of not scoring, and I don't care who you are, that puts so much pressure on your defense. And we talked about this the other day, and I'm a huge, huge fan of DeJuan Harris. I am.
Yeah.
The first play of the game tonight, he drives down the lane. And if you go back and watch it, he has a clear point-blank layup, and he turns it down and tries to pass it, and it's a turnover, and it goes the other way. I just think that he doesn't score enough. I think he's so pass-oriented that he's self-checking himself. He's just not making teams have to guard him. So you're literally talking about a team that puts – if Grady Dick isn't making shots, Jalen Wilson is player of the year candidate right now the way he's playing. But outside of those guys, where's the offense coming from? So I'm not saying he has to score alone, but he's got to be a threat to make it easier for everybody else. And they're just – I think their offense is more of the problem than their defensive effort.
Henson, I mean, to me, I think it's both ends. I honestly think it's both ends. I'm with you. I thought it was offense early. The last few games, I think it's probably been as much defense as offense. And that scares me that normally you'd say it's one or the other. Now I think it's kind of become both, John, and that scares the hell out of me, even though they might have the best coach in the country.
Yeah, RC made a good point. When your offense is struggling, there's a lot of pressure on the defense, and I think Kansas is too top heavy. I watched that Kansas State game from start to finish. If Bill Self doesn't call a timeout, Kansas is up 4 with 11 seconds left. So, that was kind of a blunder on their end. Then 2 guys foul out, and they got to bring in the bench guys. They dump it down to the big. He loses it, turnover. The final play of the game, the big doesn't come off the bench. The freshman kid doesn't come to the ball, gets it stolen. They've had some blunders that kind of you scratch your head about being a top-ranked team. You can't do. You're on the road. You can't do those things. And even today, like Grady Dick and if those guys aren't cooking, it's trouble. And Baylor jumped on them early, and Kansas fought back, but they need like a third, or they need someone to consistently just
be
there.
Third. They need
a pressure valve, man. They don't have that. Like I'm when I watch the offense, I'm like, sometimes Jalen Wilson has to shoot that contested 3 because it's probably the best shot they're going to get. And so it's tough to win at a high level like that. And the schedule they have coming up, they could get spooky. They could lose 3 or 4 of those if they don't.
You got
figure
no
it out.
bench. You got
zero production today from the bench. Zero production. They got 2 points.
2 points.
They Rice scored 2
points.
points.
They better hit that portal. Come on, man. The portal wide open. Man. Come on, Bill.
Like Bobby Pettiford was supposed to give him something this year, and he can't really shoot. MJ Rice isn't ready. They're bigs. Zach Clemens came in at that Kansas State game, and he was just overwhelmed a little bit. He can score, but he can't guard. Then you got the other bigs that can guard, but they can't score. KJ Adams, to me, he's been about as good as you can ask, but he's not going to give you much offensively. As you said, DeJuan Harris isn't going to give you much offensively. McCullough, certain nights can give you 12 or 14, but he's more about defense and just kind of filling the stat sheet with everything but scoring. So you legitimately have two dudes that can score, and one of them is a freshman that if he doesn't do it, it's all on Jalen. Can't be all on Jalen Wilson, and it has been lately. They've got to figure that out somehow. I don't know what you do if you're Bill Self at this point, because you can't afford to tinker, can you? I mean, you can't throw in these freshmen at this point in the year because you got to stop the bleeding now.
Got to defend. If you're struggling and you have you're top heavy offensively, you've got to defend. You've got to muck the game up a little bit and kind of try to steal some possessions. Because even with this Baylor game, Baylor in the first half was, I mean, looked like they were going to blow them out the water, and Kansas still was in it. So if they can shore up the defense a little bit, I think they'll be fine. But if they're not going to play any defense, it just puts too much pressure on them offensively, defensively. Bill has to try to find these combination lineups that he has probably even used in practice. And so it's going to be tough for them.
This is a difficult group for him. It's more than he's had in the past because he's had better offensive weapons in the past. And I don't know if this team is as high as ranked that they've been and as good as they are. They have limitations, and they have serious limitations about creating shots, and there's no necessarily rim protection. And there's not a lot of productive depth from this team. And so they're going to have to try something, mix and match. And we'll figure that out during these next 4 games, like we talked about, because Kansas State's legit. We know that. That's not going to be an easy game, even though it's at home. And then, like we talked about those teams that play. I mean, you cannot – that's a murderer's row. Kentucky, Kansas State, Iowa State, and Texas. Like that's – like, again, if any team in the country will play those 4 games and go, if I win 2 out of 4, that's a great stretch. Not someone coming into it having lost 3.
They're going to be drained, man. They're after that stretch, we'll really see what this Kansas team is at, and then they'll probably just – I mean, they're probably going to be fried mentally, man. That's a lot to get up for 5 straight games. And, you know, Kansas State is licking their chops like, you know what? This is the year. Like, we coming to get them boys. So, yeah.
And we just got them in our place. We know we can win. And by the way, we might not have the best player on the court in Jalen Wilson, but we got like the next 2 or 3 best players on the court.
100%.
That's what Kansas State.
I like Kansas. They got length, the athletic, the kind of got a little couple dogs over there, man. Yep. That's a fun team to watch.
And there's going to be some confidence issues coming up too, man. Let's be honest. I mean, when the ball doesn't go in, can you imagine what those kids are hearing out there, what they're hearing right now, having lost 3 in a row? And then let's be honest, they're catching Kentucky, where a month ago we would have thought that would have been a blowout, no contest game. Now you catch Kentucky, they're figuring it out. I mean, they got to be licking their chops after what happened, the last year's game. So it's going to be this stretch. I tell you what, we're going to learn a lot about Kansas over the next couple weeks, next 2 weeks. We'll find a lot about Kansas team